Noise pollution is increasingly becoming a major problem facing many residents in Ghana's major cities and towns. And this seems to have overwhelmed local authorities and also many of these institutions becoming very much helpless at addressing the rising menace. And local authorities acting on behalf of government have enacted a number of bylaws to regulate them, and it depends on which area you are, local authority you are. We have the Ghana Environmental Protection Agency, that's the EPA Act of 1994, Act 490, mandating the EPA to prescribe standards and guidelines relating to the pollution of water, air, land, and noise in our country. Well, noise exposure has also been known to induce hypertension and other cardiovascular impacts. I'm not here to tell you everything. We have an expert in the studio, and we have a member of the National Noise Awareness Celebration Committee and Chief Program Officer in charge of environmental quality at the EPA is here with me, and my guest is Emmanuel Apo. Thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you very much.
Why did you put together a committee for just creating awareness of noise? Why don't you just go around communities and tell them, please, stop making noise?
As you rightly said, we are mandated to prescribe standards, guidelines and standards for air, noise, water, soil, and other related environmental media. In the year 2000, EPA prescribed guidelines for noise measurement. This also culminated in the fact that there were a lot of complaints coming to the agency. So we decided to implement the guidelines and then went ahead to develop protocols that we can use in measuring noise levels in the environment. Aside that, we also had a very thorny issue in the country at that time when there was a perennial rift between the charismatic churches and then the traditional authorities on ban on noise making and drumming. So there were a lot of nasty incidents happening. So the national security actually brought in EPA and AMA to form a committee that we call the Noise Abatement Committee or Task Force. And from our activities for the 3 consecutive years that we worked, we were able to actually solve that problem and trying to also reduce noise in our environment. Aside that, the EPA, by its mandate, also came out with a lot of educational materials like flyers on noise so that people will be aware of the impact of noise on human beings. So when we did all this, we said, no, there is also what we call International Noise Awareness Day. So why can't we take advantage of the International Noise Awareness Day that falls on 29th?
And create a lot more awareness about it. So during the period, what do you usually do?
What we do is that first we do the national sensitization and make people aware of what is happening. Initially, we do the opening ceremony, which will be done this morning.
Okay, we'll talk about the normal programming. But since time immemorial, since we got to take notice of the fact that noise was becoming an issue in our environment, what has the Protection Agency been doing about it? Following the promulgation and the enactment of the Act, etc.
Yes, we did that. And then, we also had issues with prosecution. We didn't have prosecutors. So EPA, it's not only on noise alone, but prosecutors for prosecuting offenders on environmental infringements. So what we did was that EPA has trained our staff, and then for taking up this challenge. So we have 3 streams of staff that have been trained, and then we also trained the judges themselves, because they have to be aware of
you give them some level
of training and what the effects are,
so that they will better
appreciate what we have. I think journalists will also be meeting you in one way or the other, also disseminating information to you and how you also be able to present them to the general public. So this is one aspect. And then we have the educational aspect that we have. We have the education department, which also organizes at the community levels. And it's done all along in the whole regions of Ghana. It's not only in Accra. So we are on the ground. But we do this also in partnership with the MMDAs. You know, they are strong. They have the bylaws that they are in the city belong to them, and they are the managers of the city. So we collaborate with them a lot. And we normally have some collaborations with them. Only that they have to do more. Do more to help reduce.
Since all these interventions have been undertaken by you, then it means we have a certain history.
Yeah.
Do we have a history of excessive noise making in our environment? And what is perhaps the best allowable limits as far as we're concerned?
The trend is increasing, though we've been actually, you know, the more you sensitize people, people also become aware of the situation. So now people are aware of the impact, so they don't want to be actually affected. So you have a lot of complaints. So it's ranked almost second to all complaints that we have in the agency. And aside that, I don't know what to say, but we're doing our best. We're doing our best and to collaborate with our partners to actually.
What is the permissible level of noise as far as we're concerned?
We, as part of the guidelines that we developed, in fact, we have up to 7 areas we zoned the cities or the environment to 7. We have the residential facilities, and we expect that within the daytime, the levels will not exceed 55 decibels, and then the nighttime will not exceed 48 decibels. Then we have a zone B, which is comprised of educational facilities and offices, and then health facilities. That area to the night should be not more than 50 and the day 55. Then when we come to the zone C, which also involves a mixed zone, we have some residential areas with some light industry and commercial facilities. We expect that the daytime will be 60 decibels and the nighttime will be 55 decibels. Then we come to the light industrial area. We expect that the daytime will be 70, the night will be 60. Then under predominantly heavy industrial area, the day and night time should be 70 decibels. Then commercial, predominantly commercial area, we have it at 75 decibels per day, and then the 65 decibels in the night time.
If you go to countries, let's say in America and the UK, they are very much stringent on it, but they also have some allowable noise levels. Yeah. But it's also because, for example, if they're putting together concerts and things, people are warned ahead that there will be a concert, etc. How do we undertake all this? Yeah, let's say for somebody who is just around Osu, and we have the stadium also there. The person doesn't get offended that the noise coming out of the stadium, for example, is a nuisance to him or her.
Under the Criminal Offences Act, there is a provision there that one can take permission from the Ghana Police, and then under the Local Government Act, you can take permission from your nearest district assembly to undertake setting. So there is an allowable reason for that. And that one goes with conditions. They will give you conditions on which you have to operate.
And if let's say residents or ordinary people have concerns about how a church is making noise in their neighborhood, or they perceive to be making noise in their neighborhood, where do they make complaints?
They have to move straight to their nearest district sub-metro and report to the Metro Health Division, and they will take it up from there.
And then their cases will be dealt with. How many cases so far have you dealt with since you said you've been able to undertake some prosecutorial activities as far as as far as flouting of the law is concerned?
They are numerous.
They are numerous.
They are numerous. I can't just give you a figure now. There are a lot
but
of
you have
them.
examples?
We have a lot of examples that we have. Yes, recently we had to prosecute one from Awuna in something like Nungwa, and
because of noise
making from a church.
But we live in a society where we have to be realistic. We're more religious than we think, and the activities around us also tend to give us that very indication. So, we're in instances where people themselves are very much religious, and we have all these perhaps the variables around us that also tend to create the harm because of noise. How do we differentiate and try to perhaps delineate that and say, well, you have essentially an activity being done in your community that is harmful to you, but even though we know you don't appreciate it, it's still harmful enough?
It's a very big challenge that we normally have. You know, Ghanaians, we have the attitude of those in a kind called enyehui attitude. It doesn't matter. But in effect, people are being really disturbed. Health of the citizens are being impacted on heavily. And but I will take this media to educate Ghanaians that, please, noise is really a problem that can affect our physiology, the way we are, the way we behave, even our digestion. Yes. The way we eat, the way we sleep.
You know, recently there was a Dansuman gas explosion, and the noise that the explosion caused, we were told, was excessive, according to the residents. You know about that?
Yes. In every explosion, just like in gunshots, if you like a gunshot, a drop of a bomb, definitely you will go beyond the threshold. At that instant, it can go beyond 120 decibels, which really can create a lot of problem to the ear.
We're even told that even the report following that investigation of that very incident is out.
Yes, the report, EPA has investigated it, and I think the report is
out. Okay. You care to share some of the content for us?
I'm not privy to the content in detail, but I think the report can be obtained from EPA if requested.
In order to make sure that the activities that the EPA has to contain the excessive noise pollution levels in our environment, how do you make sure you do the collaboration effectively? And here you are telling us if you have concerns, you go to the municipal or metropolitan or district directorate and then you make all those comments. So it means that you do some collaboration. How excessive is it?
Yeah, we have that collaboration. They also come to us for help. You know, they don't have the sound level meters. Most of the MMDAs don't have the sound level meters. So if they have challenge, they come to us to do the measurement for them so that they can easily prosecute. And then we also go to them when we need, there's a complaint that we think they should take it up from their end. And then that collaboration is going on very well, especially with LECMA. LECMA is doing a lot of work that they always come to us. And then aside that, just as I've told you, the educational aspect goes on. We get invitations from radio, TV, and this, and then we begin to actually tell the public the story about noise nuisance. So we're doing that collaboration is happening not only between the assemblies alone, but between the press.
Okay, and before we let you go, we want you to talk about what the official program outline is, as you have put together this very committee to perhaps mark the day. But you know, these days a lot more people are using mobile phones and things like that, earpiece and all those gadgets. Are they harmful enough?
Very, very, very harmful, because it depends on the volume that you tune your phone to. And most of them too are so piercing. You know, humans, the transmission of sound normally moves from the outer media through to the ear and then to the tympanic membrane. That's what we call if it's a drum, you see the leather that we drum on. So the impact of this sound that is coming to the tympanic membrane, when it gets to the tympanic membrane, already the sound is high, When it gets there, it is amplified. And when it is amplified in the tympanic membrane, it is transmitted to what we call an over window. And then to our balancing, we have, how do you call it, a coil, just like a snake shape in the ear. And it's meant for our balancing, a push equilibrium. So when it gets there, it tends to also distort. If the sound level is very high, it is transmitted to the brain, and the brain interprets it very fast. And when it is high, just like we have a gunshot or you have a bomb coming up, at that instant, it can actually dislodge your memory. And then for the ear drums, when it gets there, you have a lot of saturation of noise in the body, in the ear. So the body mechanism begin to change. You have a lot of reflection in terms of pictorial, in terms of the hearing, and all those things. So the human body at that moment and the physiology changes a bit. So if the impact is really very high, then there's a possibility that you can have, when you use it continuously, you can have what we call a temporal deafness. And if the threshold is very high, you continue to use it and it's very high, you can become permanent deaf.
All right. So what program of activities do you have to mark
this morning, we just inaugurating it at Parakwasi Indung Hotel, African region, just closer to the immigration.
You mean the Regency Hotel?
Regency Hotel, just near the immigration office. And then after that, we have a series of programs here all year long. We'll have educational activities, and then we also have to move into the communities, the hotspots. In fact, we've done some research in schools and hotspots in the capital.
You mean you've notified?
We notify some hotspots.
Notice that some areas are hotspots.
Hotspots, yes, in Accra.
In Kumasi.
Kumasi and Takoradi.
Okay.
So
where in Accra is a hotspot?
There are many.
Circle.
Circle, you know, automatically. Abekan is another one. And then the Gamashi area is another hotspot.
All right. Yeah, I got you there. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We've had in the studio Emmanuel Apo, the Chief Programs Manager for the Environmental Protection Agency, and also a member of the National Noise Awareness Celebration Committee. Yes. And they are kickstarting the formal launch this morning, and it's going to be a year-long activity just to reach out to a lot more people to know that some aspect of our lives also is affected by noise. Noise that we create ourselves, but also we tend to encounter in our environment. And thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We're taking a break. When we come back, we're having a discussion, a very positive discussion with a representative of POTAC, the Accra Polytechnic branch. And then we'll be having their concerns being outlined here on this very show. And that will be undertaken by Mama Viu Swabwaji. Do stay on. We'll be right back.